Hi, I'm Drew, and this is the Drew Petersen Podcast, home to one chairlift ride, ski pole microphone, and real story at a time. This chairlift chat is with Caroline Gleich, a true athlete activist, as she calls herself. As a professional ski mountaineer, Caroline was the first woman to ski all of the lines in the Chuting Gallery, a classic guidebook in the Wasatch Mountains of Utah, before climbing Everest, and then summiting and skiing Cho Oyu, another 8,000 meter peak. She's still on her path towards her long-term goal of the 7 summits. As an activist, though, Caroline largely paved the way for the activism and advocacy that we more commonly see out of outdoor and adventure athletes now. But in my opinion, most radically, Caroline ran for U.S. Senate in 2024. With the denotation of professional ski mountaineer next to her name. And on top of that, she was the Democratic candidate in the deeply red state of Utah. So the odds were very much stacked against her, but she fully committed. Before we hop into this chat, a quick note from this episode's sponsor. Do you want a future with clean air, clean water, and a livable planet? Whoa, crazy! Same here. In the US, 181 million people love and recreate in the outdoors. Protect Our Winters calls this the outdoor state. And together, people like you and me have the power to act on climate. I've been part of the Athlete Alliance at Protect Our Winters for 8 years. One of the original members, Caroline, our guest today, helped drive that climate advocacy from the grassroots all the way to Capitol Hill. To learn more, to get involved, and to join Team PAL, go to protectourwinters.org. Of course, that's linked in the show notes and this week's newsletter. All right, let's raise the bar, keep your tips up, and drop in. Well, Caroline, thanks for coming to ride Wildcat with me, even though you were ski touring today.
I'm happy to be here.
But happy April POW Day.
Yay, yeah, happy April POW. I love spring skiing.
So you've been up to some pretty big things, I think is fair to say. Maybe the biggest of which being the 2024 Utah Senate race, followed by going to climb, am I pronouncing this right, Karsten's Pyramid?
Yeah, Karsten's Pyramid. Yep. Yeah.
And that's one of the 7 summits. Where is that?
That is in Indonesia on the island of Papua. So it's on the northernmost island and it is 16,000 feet, this big limestone monolith that rises out of the jungles of Indonesia. So yeah, it was really fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was that experience like to go back into the mountains and go climb a big peak after being so engrossed in a Senate race that was here at home very divisive but energy fueled throughout and kind of constant for you? What was it like to kind of go back into the mountains?
It was really wonderful. And to have those like long days of quiet, and we had it's the place where we were is one of the rainiest places in the world. So it is the rainiest place in the world, actually. Like they average almost 500 inches of rain per year. So we had a lot of days where we just sat around and did nothing. And I loved it. Like I love sitting around and just being in the tent and playing cards. And like, while I'm doing it, maybe I don't love it. But then when I get home, I'm like, oh, that was so nice. Yeah, I caught up on a lot of sleep. And I felt it was a nice kind of adrenal. I mean, it was stressful, but in a different kind of way. Yeah.
Totally. I think it's awesome that you caught up on sleep while on an expedition because people normally don't say that. But I think that speaks to what the Senate race was. So when you declared your candidacy for the Senate race, I happened to go to your first political fundraiser back in February of 2023. And when I look back at that, like it is monumental for you to make that decision. Like what gave you the courage to make such a big leap to enter a Senate race as a ski mountaineer?
You know, I think with my activism, I try to always think about, it's like that whole Venn diagram of like what you're good at and what the world needs, and you find that overlap. And I think with the Senate race, I didn't want to do it, to be honest. You know, like I don't want to go protest tomorrow, but it's what I felt my state and country needed me to do. So I was very reluctant in a sense, but on the other hand, it was, I think you have to be strategic, you know, and it was something where I had an opportunity to be on the ballot for a U.S. Senate seat, to be one of the youngest candidates in the country, and to really help inspire our community to do more to create the kind of world we want to see, where we have protected public lands and abundant snowfall and a stable climate. And so I really want to walk the walk and put my money where my mouth is. And it felt like something I could do with my skill set.
It's amazing. It really is. It was incredibly inspiring as an individual, but I think it was equally as inspiring for the mountain and outdoor and ski community to see at large. You make that big of a leap of faith of sorts. And I do love hearing how reluctant you were. I think perhaps like that really speaks to the civic duty and opportunity that you had to be that reluctant. When you look back at it, what is like the element that you learned the most through that level of commitment?
I mean, we talk about the pain cave. I just realized like my personal pain, I learned of all these new chambers of pain cave, like there's a whole other arm of pain cave that I'd never explored. And this whole deep well that I dug from, and there was so much that was you don't see that. I don't know that I'll really talk about that much. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that was just nasty that I had to deal with. And I just realized like it gave me a lot of confidence in myself. And I after doing what I did, I'm like, I could do anything, because it was so hard. Like it was so brutal. I mean, for example, like the biggest thing, it's like as a US Senate candidate, you have to raise a lot of money because it costs a lot of money to reach voters across the state and to run the operation. Like you have legal fees and compliance just to like be a candidate. You have to raise so much money. And I would make phone calls to donors, cold calling donors for like 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so if you can do that, you can do anything, It makes any workout I have now seem like so fun. I'm like, oh, I have to do like 4 10-minute intervals as hard as I can. I'm like, that's not bad, because I just made 200 phone calls a day for, months on end. So there's a lot of stuff like that it wasn't what I thought it would be. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. And there's a lot I would do differently for sure. But I mean, it is crazy. I knew that there's big money in politics, but I have a whole new level of knowledge of how just I feel corrupt the system is and how badly we need reform to publicly finance campaigns and to end Citizens United so that billionaire families can't spend, hundreds of millions of dollars to basically buy our elections. And I was competing against a established politician who had $16 million worth of support to my 1.3 million. And so I was outspent 16 to 1. And it's really hard to make a dent with those odds. And I still managed to pick up a couple percentage points and move the needle. So
$1.3 million sounds like a lot of change. And I think that speaks to that problem with campaign finance. While following along with your campaign, I was constantly getting your text updates, which I loved. But it really showed me how much you were learning through the process of it. And I think for a lot of us, it could be terrifying to learn through the process of that level of commitment. Where do you think like that lesson kind of correlates with having that willingness to learn now going back into the mountains or anything in life?
I think people are, and myself included, like I was really afraid of failure for a long time. And, it took me a long time before I started a project like the Chuting Gallery because I wanted to be so sure of my skill set. And I think that was the right choice for me with that project in particular. But there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of things we can learn on the fly. And especially if you can build a good team and like surround yourself with good people. And so whether it's like seeing what's around the next corner of the backcountry or exploring your potential as a political candidate, like I would encourage people to embrace those challenges with curiosity and also to not be afraid of failure because like, yeah, I didn't win my race. But Bernie Sanders told me it took him 4 times before he won. And so I just think that it's like actually I learn more when I don't get my mission accomplished than when I do. Like if I got it right away, I don't think I would learn as much as not getting it. So I think that stuff builds character. And it gave me a lot of gray hairs. A lot of new gray hairs. Yeah, a lot of worry.
That seems justified, especially like when you look at the like pictures of US presidents like before they go into office and then afterwards you're like, whoa, you just aged 20 years. So that's what one campaign did to you. But I have to say, I got to see you give a keynote in January 2025. And I guess that political fundraiser was February 2024. So I had that date wrong.
Yeah.
But to see your evolution in 1 year was really quite magnificent. In that keynote, you talked about how difficult it is to blow up a sleeping pad while you're at high elevation. I see that you're now going to be thinking about the Senate race when you have to push through and blow up that sleeping pad. But I'm going to ask the question that I imagine you hate when people ask, but I have to. Are you going to run again?
Yeah, I always saw my run for office as an extension of the political activism that I've been doing for the last 2 decades. And so it depends, TBD. Like, I'm not opposed, but again, I just want to go where like my skills and my heart and where I can be of best service to my state and country. So we'll see.
Well, you're no stranger to putting yourself out there. I have full faith that you're going to keep doing it, and I respect the heck out of you for it.
Likewise, thank you so much for your leadership, your conversations about mental health, and also for your support throughout the campaign. It means the world.
Of course. And the rule of this is one chairlift ride, so now we have to go ski.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
Thanks to Caroline for joining me for a chairlift chat. Personally, my greatest takeaway from that conversation was the similarity of Caroline as a reluctant politician to Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, as a reluctant businessman. Now, to answer that last question that I ended on with Caroline, yes, she did run again. In 2025, she ran for the board of trustees for her local service area. And of course, she won. Now, I think that proves that whether it be on an audacious scale like the US Senate, or if it's on a down-home, local, grassroots level, public service matters. And for Caroline, she's definitely walking the walk. You can follow Caroline on Instagram at Caroline Gleich, and I also recommend subscribing to her Substack. She also has a podcast, The Caroline Gleich Show. Thanks to this episode's sponsor, Protect Our Winners. Join Team POW today at protectourwinners.org. Whew. Does it feel good to be finally getting this thing out there in the world? I've obviously been working on this for a long time, so I appreciate you watching this episode or listening to this episode. If you're interested to see more of what I'm creating here, then please follow me on Instagram at Drew Petersen. Subscribe to my Substack where I send out the weekly newsletter, and then also subscribe or follow wherever you listen to and or watch your podcasts, including on YouTube. I got to get better at this whole smash like and subscribe spiel, which I'm sure I will over time. But anyhow, that's it for this ride. Thanks for listening to the Drew Petersen Podcast. Until next run, keep your tips up. Ski and enjoy, my friends.